Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. 3 red contacts snapped onto the tactical display, each one turning toward the same patch of empty space. A warning tone clicked once beneath Captain Alina Voss's fingers, and the 3 intercept lines began tightening around the nightfall. Voss kept her hand beside the drive control. Minimum output. Rays, find me a route that doesn't cross their sweep. Commander Jason Rays dragged a narrow course across his screen. Dr. Amara Chen watched the heat tanks climb past 60%, while a second warning mark appeared over the engineering display. The nearest alien ship changed heading. Then another followed it. No one on the bridge knew whether the Dominion had a location or only a suspicion. Voss watched the range fall and understood that one careless burst of heat could end the mission before anyone outside this hull knew what they had attempted. 9 months earlier, silence had been only an engineering argument. The vast Dominion had erased the mining colony at Ceres and killed 3,000 people before Earth even understood it was at war. 6 days later came Fleet Lord Kravoth's demand: surrender within a year or watch another human settlement disappear. Earth could not match a fleet that had already conquered 11 species. Admiral Diane Ockhaffer knew it, and so did the scientists gathered inside the New Earth Defense Directorate. Dr. Amara Chen offered a different answer. "Stop trying to build the bigger ship," she told them. "Build the ship their sensors cannot notice." General Marcus Webb frowned across the table. "A reactor leaks heat, a drive leaves a trail, a crew transmits, space gives you nowhere to hide." Chen placed both hands on the table. "Then we solved those 3 things." Ockhaffer looked from Webb to Chen. "How long? 8 months if everything works," Webb said. Ockhaffer answered before anyone else could. "Then she gets 8. The project became nightfall. Chen's team buried waste heat in phase change tanks instead of radiating it into space. A slow experimental propulsion system, soon called the Umbra Drive, moved the ship without the bright exhaust of conventional engines. Dark composite skin swallowed radar returns. 40 crew members trained to work without casual transmissions, unnecessary power use, or wasted motion. The ship was not fast, it was not heavily armed. It was difficult to prove it existed. Captain Alina Voss was chosen because she understood patience. She had commanded submarines before humanity needed starships that behaved like them. When she first studied Nightfall's plans, Ockhaffer asked, "Can you fight this way?" Voss traced the long, unlit hull on the display. "I can wait this way," she said. "If we wait well enough, the fighting part will be short." Nightfall left Earth without ceremony and slipped toward the outer system. Its first Dominion scout passed within 150 kilometers. On the bridge, Chen's fingers froze above her console as the alien vessel swept them with sensors. Rays watched the range count downward. Voss kept her eyes on the scout's course. Nothing changed. The alien ship continued past. Rays finally whispered, "It looked straight through us." Chen shook her head. "No, it looked for what it already understood." Beyond Neptune, they found Kravoth's main force. More than 300 warships surrounding the enormous flagship Voice of Judgment. The Dominion made no effort to conceal itself. Communication beams crossed constantly between ships. Engines burned hot. Escorts followed rigid patterns. Rays spent days mapping those patterns until he found an 800-kilometer weakness along the flagship's northern screen. Voss gathered Chen, Rays, and Weapons Officer Lieutenant Commander Tobias Admai. "Our orders were reconnaissance," she said. "We have enough data to go home." No one moved. Voss enlarged the flagship. "But if we leave now, that fleet still reaches Earth." Admai studied the central sensor structure. "Our plasma lance gets one useful shot before a 6-hour recharge." Chen added, "Firing pushes the heat system close to its limit. We strike, we vent, and for a short time we become visible." Voss looked around the table. "I won't pretend this was the mission we launched with. Anyone who thinks we report first should say it now." Rays folded his hands. "We already proved the ship can hide." Admai nodded toward the flagship. "Let's prove hiding matters." Chen was last. "I built Nightfall to survive being underestimated." 9 days later, the voice of judgment filled the forward display. Distance 300 kilometers. Heat storage 88%. Admised targeting line settled over the flagship's primary sensor array. 94% solution, he said. Chen did not look away from her gauges. Captain, once we cross 95, I need the vent. Voss stared at the alien hull. Somewhere inside it stood the commander who had called annihilation a warning and surrender a mercy. Admai. Ready. Take their eyes. The deck gave one brief tremor. A white line crossed the darkness and struck the flagship high along its central hull. The sensor structure folded under the hit. Sections around it went dark. Dominion transmissions burst into overlapping confusion as hundreds of ships lost the network that had been tying their awareness together. Admai leaned closer to his display. Target is down. 96%, Chen said sharply. I need that vent now. Voss turned to Rays. Get us out. Stored heat spilled behind nightfall in one controlled flash. For several seconds, the invisible ship became the brightest thing in that part of space. Yet the fleet was looking in every direction at once. By the time Dominion escorts organized a search, nightfall had already slipped beyond their damaged coordination grid. 3 weeks later, Earth received Voss's report. Webb read it twice before looking at Akafer. When Chen returns, I owe her a very public apology. You can give it after we give her more ships, Akafer said. Earth began building 4. Until they arrived, Voss had one job: delay 300 warships. She stopped trying to destroy the fleet. She attacked its confidence. A scout disappeared while ranging beyond the escort screen. Another vessel returned with its engines crippled and no useful description of its attacker. Search groups found nothing. Dominion captains began refusing assignments beyond the protection of the central formation. Their advance slowed by nearly 40%. Then came the close call Voss would remember long after the war. The 3 contacts turning toward nightfall, the 6-hour crawl through a tightening search, the crew holding silence while a newer Dominion sensor hunted a gravitational trace. They escaped. Years afterward, Voss would still remember those 6 hours as the point when nightfall stopped feeling like an experiment and started feeling mortal. 11 days later, 4 dark hulls arrived from separate bearings: Riquiquum, Grey Hollow, Umbra's Edge, Silent Vow. Admiral Akafer had come with them. Her face appeared on Voss's display for only a brief encrypted burst. You kept them busy. Voss looked at the Dominion formation, now less than a day from reaching Earth's defensive boundary. They're still coming. Then we finish it here. The final plan depended on 1 second. 5 human ships would enter the Dominion formation from separate directions. Each would target a command node. Nightfall would return to the voice of judgment. If all 5 fired together, the fleet-wide command network would collapse before Kravoth could understand that one invisible attacker had become 5. Hours passed. Nightfall slid between escorts close enough for Voss to see individual lights along alien hulls. Nobody reacted. Admai's firing mark turned green. Rays whispered, all human ships report position. Chen checked the synchronization clock. 5 seconds. Voss's hand rested beside the command control. 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. 5 plasma lances struck across the Dominion formation at the same instant. The voice of judgment lurched as its repaired sensor section failed again. 4 secondary command ships vanished from the shared network. Thousands of Dominion signals suddenly had nowhere central to go. On Kravoth's command deck, warning panels filled with failures. Restore fleet control, he ordered. His communications officer stared at the broken routing map. Fleet Lord, there is no central path. The secondary nodes are gone. Ships are transmitting independently. Then locate the attackers. We cannot. Kravoth gripped the edge of his console. How many? The officer hesitated. We do not know. That answer did more damage than the weapons. Across the formation, some Dominion ships accelerated toward Earth. Others fell back toward the flagship. Several stopped and waited for orders that never reached them. The human ship struck only where the confusion opened a clean target. Engines failed. Weapons arrays went dark. Communication relays were cut. Every attack came from a direction the Dominion had just declared empty. 6 hours later, Kravoth watched his formation fragment on the only local display still functioning. His officers waited. He had conquered 11 species by making resistance look pointless. Now 300 ships were afraid to move without permission. Kravoth's shoulders lowered. "Pass this ship to ship," he said. The communications officer leaned toward him. "What order, Fleet Lord?" Kravoth looked at the shrinking route toward Earth. "Withdraw the fleet, rally beyond the outer boundary." The officer did not move. Kravoth struck the console once with his palm. "Send it." The retreat order crawled outward from vessel to vessel. On nightfall, Ray's watched Dominion vectors change one after another. "They're turning." Chen lowered herself into her chair, exhausted. "All of them." Voss waited until the last major formation bent away from Earth. "All of them." 21 days after the retreat, Okafor addressed the Earth Defense Directorate and confirmed that the Dominion fleet had crossed beyond the solar system. Voss did not attend. Nightfall remained on watch in the outer dark, its systems cooling after months of operations. The bridge crew had finally gone off shift. Chen's engineering console showed the heat tanks falling through safe levels. Ray's had left a mug strapped beside his station and forgotten to take it. Voss stood alone beside the forward glass. Far behind her, a small status lamp changed from amber to green. She reached up and switched off the battle display. Since launch, she had never seen the forward glass so empty. Now it held nothing but stars.